We need to consider something here, I think. Technically speaking, well, we ain't in war with nobody. But we have been fighting proxy wars since the since the Cold War, right? Even that was a war. In the last 20 years minimum, we are fighting proxy wars all over the world. We're supporting our allies who are defending themselves or helping others to defend themselves from tyranny. Okay, but that involves American resources, American manpower, sticking their noses in stuff all over the world. It's becoming clearer and clearer that America is not the big policeman that we once were. No matter how many billions of dollars we choose to throw at the industrial military complex, that's not going to change it. It's not going to change it. And we keep slipping further and further behind our, China. They're going to surpass us one of these days, probably sooner than later. If you get a kid and you give them a toy, and then you put it up on the shelf and you tell them it's just to look at, you can't touch it, you can't play with it. It's just to look at. Eventually most kids, there's some kids that either terrified of breaking that rule at home or are just being kids, and they're going to investigate that anyway. They're going to play with it. They're going to touch it. They're going to do some stuff with it. Usually when you're not around to see it, but it'll happen. Some kids, though, don't take no for an answer. Consider that for a minute. We are not at war. We are not at war with anybody. But how long do you think that's going to last? The Republicans, before they became MAGA, were notorious for getting us into wars. They blamed it on the Democrats, and the Democrats had their share of war hawks. I'm not denying that, without a doubt. But it's generally the Republicans that get us into shit. I'm just noticing, it takes the Democrats to get us out of it after we've been put into it. Assuming that they have the wherewithal and the reason or the will, or are not being paid off by the corporate America to ignore it. Who do you think we should be at war with? Russia? They got enough nukes to basically wipe us off the face of the earth. They'll take themselves and most of the world with them, but so be it. North Korea? Why? North Korea is going to collapse or kill itself at some point. Unfortunately, there's a good possibility the North Koreans might take this as an opportunity to invade South Korea and become united as one Korea. That would cause a whole lot of problems on our end. Many, many problems, which would also invoke a number of treaties and things that we have in place to go help them. Plus, we have, 30,000 troops stationed over there, something like that. In China just played poke the bear with the Taiwanese here the other day. They've been running exercises and upwards of 100 plus jet fighters and other aircraft buzzing the airspace or the near airspace of their Taiwanese neighbors. They're testing the waters. They're moving military units into that area of China to be in a better position to do what? Just part of training, right? What happens if Taiwan gets, taken over by the Chinese? See, I have mixed opinions on this. It's like when Hong Kong eventually was returned to the Chinese, and two things happened. One, the Chinese suddenly became a whole lot more capitalistic than they were before. Two, they become a bigger world power. Now, it may not be directly tied to this, this handing over of Hong Kong from the British, but it was interesting. So, what do you expect will happen if China takes over Taiwan? With its its tech base that we depend quite heavily on for stuff here. That's going to impact us how? In a number of ways. Meanwhile, there's a good possibility that we could have a war right here in this country. I'm not kidding you. When people were going on, well, we're going to have a civil war, and I was agreeing, and I still think we could. I still think we are closer to a civil war now than we were before. And it ain't the way MAGA thinks it's going to go. MAGA's delusional. One of the biggest delusions is most of them ain't got enough firepower or balls to go toe-to-toe with their neighbors. Just saying. They don't. You start rounding up Democrats in the streets, you think people aren't going to fight back? You start sending red state National Guard into blue states, you think that the blue states aren't going to say something about that? Aren't going to put up a no, hell no? If it was reversed, would we do that the other way around? I'm just asking, America. I don't think we've been closer to as close to nuclear war as we are now since the 60s, in my opinion. And I don't know if it would be a full-out exchange or a limited tactical exchange, but any exchange is going to be a bad one. Gonna be a bad one.